You are listening to Big Trouble in Little Podcast. And here are your hosts, Joe Dubs and Andy.
Hello, Internet peeps, and welcome to another edition of Big Trouble Little Podcast. I am Joe Dubs.
And I'm Andy.
And this is our bi-weekly podcast where we watch movies and we talk about it because we're a movie buff, just like how we're a video game addict too. So, we come here every bi-weekly, we watch our movie, and then we talk about it, and then we talk about some news here and there, and then we go home and have a good day. Andy, what the hell you been watching?
I started Cheers from the beginning, so I just watched a ton of Cheers. I only watched one movie. I watched Modern Times, the Charlie Chaplin movie.
Oh, nice. An oldie but a goodie for both of those. Cheers. A lot of the people from Cheers is doing big things. I think. I know the pig from Toy Story is in there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and of course, Woody Allen. Not Woody Allen, Jesus Christ. Woody Harrelson is doing TVs like True Detectives and...
Kelsey Grammer still does stuff.
Mm-hmm. Man, what a good show. TV shows like that, you don't get those anymore. I just think TV is kind of... You have to be so... dramatic that you have to be like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. It's like, bring back some good shit.
There's a lot of TV shows now that are still like, just people doing stuff contemporarily, but they're writing jokes for the lowest common denominator, and none of them are fun to watch, like stuff like Cheers was, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's all like, I don't want to watch 2.5 Men movies. That TV show is garbage, and it makes me feel stupid being in the same room as it,
I mean, I guess you have your Parks and Rec and your, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and The Office. That kind of rub off of what Cheers and the other shows were like back then, but...
Yeah, those are all great.
Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. I watched two things, just like you. I watched an Ethan Hawke movie from 2014 called Predestination. It's about time travel, and it's really hard to explain, but it's really, really a good movie. Surprisingly, it was straight to DVD, I believe, and I was surprised this didn't hit theaters, but I could also see why it didn't. It involves a lot of thinking while watching this movie. So you're like, well, how did this person get here? What's the time loop and all that stuff? And you need to watch it. Go watch it. It's not on a streaming platform, so you would have to rent it, I believe, on like Amazon Prime or your local Redbox. I don't know if I said this last episode, but I rewatched the OA again from season 1 and season 2, and the writing is so good in this. Like, I'd never seen a series so much that they pay attention to a lot of details from season 1. Like, usually when in TV shows, when they do the writing, you're like, well, what happened in this scene compared to this season? And they don't usually write that well. This one, if you go back to season 1 and look at certain scenes, you go, oh, now I know why they did this in the second season.
What's it about?
It's another hard one to explain. But pretty much, it's about a Russian little girl. Her father was a mobster. Uh, a rival mobster pretty much killed his children, or killed his little girl, and she had a near death experience where it brought her back into this world, but they brought her back blind, and she had to move to America to get away from the danger. And pretty much the dad dies because he's a mobster, and that's what mobsters usually get when they're fighting with other gangs. And pretty much she this is where the hard explanation comes into play. She is trying to find her dad, but ends up finding a scientist who says he could help her because he's studying near-death experiences. But instead of helping her, he kidnaps her and uses her as a guinea pig for experiments. What was that?
What a jerk.
Yeah. And it involves, other dimensions and stuff. It gets really weird, but at the same time, the writing is so good that you want to see what happens in the next episode and the story that she tells, because I won't spoil it, but she comes back to the town, and something happened to her that you're not expecting. That would, it's more like a miracle level. And she's explaining the story to the kids in the neighborhood, and she explaining the kidnap situation and how things went there and stuff. It's just really good. It's on Netflix. It has 2 seasons, and both seasons are 8 episodes. So
Are they hour-long episodes?
about 45 minutes.
No?
I think 1 or 2 are like an hour, because usually that's what happens in like the beginning or end of the season.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what I've been watching. I really want to watch the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone.
Me too, but I guess you have to have CBS All Access. Is that right?
Yeah, and I'm hearing conflicting things, like it's hard to match Rod Serling, but you're never gonna match Rod Serling, in my opinion. You can get close, and Jordan Peele is doing really well as a director. So
Incredibly well, yeah. I was disappointed to hear they're just redoing some of the old stories. Like, that'll still be really cool, but I kind of wanted to see a bunch of new sci-fi writers
well,
highlighted.
what I know is that they have an episode called The Comedian, which I think is new. And then they have the old William Shatner.
Terror at 10 to 20,000 feet.
Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about that. Like you said, I just want something new, to stop trying to recreate something that you don't really have to.
If they bring something new to it, then whatever. I'll, go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and do it. Hopefully they know what they're doing. There's a lot of talented people attached to it. I know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna watch the first 2 episodes after this podcast, probably, because I didn't have time. I was too busy doing other stuff. All right, let's get into our movie of the week. So we're still doing the Planet of the Apes series, and we did Planet of the Apes, the 1968 version, last episode. In this episode, we're doing Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I'm really surprised they kind of, because when I went to IMDb, and I don't know if you went there, but I didn't see Charlton Heston on the cast. The cast list here doesn't even mention him.
Oh, really? That's weird. No, I didn't look up anything about it until after I'd watched it. Like, I didn't even know the plot synopsis, nothing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this movie, I guess. So I just put it in and watched it. Since the last episode, I found you can get the first, 7 Planet of the Apes movies in a Blu-ray box set for like $11 or something on Amazon. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good deal. Actually, I retract my statement. He's all the way at the bottom of the list. I guess they're trying not to spoil it, I guess. I don't know.
maybe.
But I was really surprised because they kind of redid the end in the beginning, kind of like a recap. and showed him going along the ocean and seeing the Statue of Liberty and yelling and stuff. And we have a new character named Brent, who I did a search and rescue party to find Taylor, and him, and we never really get the other guy's name. He just called him Skipper, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, presumably he was their ranking officer, and he's injured in the crash, and then he dies.
Yeah, he didn't have a big role. he only said, my daughter and my wife are dead because we went 1,000 years in the future and stuff. Because of space time travel and all that crap. What's funny about the Brent character is he's so close to the character of Charlton Heston on how he looks and stuff.
Yeah.
When he went into town and seeing Zira and Cornelius, that's the other one, right?
Yeah.
They're like, Taylor? And he's like, no.
I really like that, though, because if you think about it, all men, they say in the first movie, all men kind of look alike to apes. And if you think about it, you see a bunch of monkeys, a bunch of apes at the zoo.
Mhm.
They'll look alike to you. You can't tell them apart. You don't know which one's which unless you like really, really look at them. And it's funny because that's what they're doing. Like if you saw two of the same one, you wouldn't be able to tell it apart that well at first, and then they start putting it together. I liked it a lot, though. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I really like that. I just thought it was really funny. What I also noticed too, and my friend who's also big into Planet of the Apes, he was kind of giving me a little history that Zira, the person who played Zira, and Cornelius, they had other plans and movies and stuff, so they had to do their scenes really quickly. So that's why you only saw them like a few times.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that's interesting.
It was hard for them to get anyone back for this movie. The director couldn't come back because he was working on Patton.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't get the composer back. The guy who played Dr. Zaius is completely different because he was gone. And they could only barely get both of them and Heston back. And even he was like, I don't want to be in that much. Just donate my money. Like, he donated his pay to charity, and his filming was done in like 8 days. And part of, here comes a spoiler, part of him agreeing to be in the movie was that his character would die so that he wouldn't have to get bothered in the future.
Yeah, and another thing is, like, people weren't used to sequels back then. So, like, having this was kind of interesting in a way. And obviously, they didn't know that this was going to be a franchise, I think, maybe. Just based off how the ending was to me.
Yeah, I mean, the end of this movie seems to indicate, okay, that's it.
Mm-hmm. But we won't get there. We'll explain some scenes that we like. And I hate notifications on PC. I got to take this shit off. Because I don't know if you guys know that when you on YouTube, if you do notification, and now I have a barking dog in the house while doing the podcast, but whatever. The notification pops up on your computer and does a ding sound. So that's what you're hearing on the podcast, so I apologize. Yeah, Brent's character, how did you feel about him? Did you think his personality was okay for this movie?
He was good enough, but he never got a lot of time. Like, I didn't understand. In the first movie, they do a really good job about, like, Taylor's disillusioned with people on Earth. He figured, oh, I'm going to go do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy wants to further scientifically. I have no idea why Brent's doing what he's doing. They never set it up. It's just, oh, I'm here now. I mean, obviously, it was supposed to be like a rescue mission or something, so they followed his trajectory and wound up here under the same circumstances. But you don't get to know his character that well.
Yeah.
Like the first movie.
Yeah, because like you said, like in Charlton Heston character, he was like, "Oh man, humans are garbage. We destroy everything." This guy is like, "I need to find Taylor," and that's all he did. And he's like, "Wow, there's a planet of apes. This is weird." And then he gets shot, and he's like, "Give me a map." And when eventually he goes to Zira and Cornelius's house and stuff. What'd you think of the scene, by the way, when they're in that little coliseum? And it kind of reminded me State of the Union a little bit. where they were explaining what to do, and then you had the different factions like the scientists, uh, the gorillas section, like standing up and clapping and stuff.
That was one of my favorite parts, actually, because that's what I want to know more about. I want to know more about like the caste system that the Ape City has.
Mm-hmm.
They start to explore it, but they don't do enough with it in this movie. They get away from it eventually, and I understand why. They have all this new interesting stuff going on. I mean, interesting to some people, but that's what I wanted to see more of. And this movie didn't have as much like social commentary, like contemporary stuff, or when the movie came out, it was more like a fun sci-fi romp, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. They put that aside so they could do some of their other sci-fi ideas, and it works and it doesn't.
Well,
But yeah, I like that scene a lot. That's what I want to see more of. I want to see like what's up with ape society and like I said, it's like a caste system. It seems like.
and what was funny too is like the gorilla was all about like we need to destroy our enemy. We need to go to war and stuff. And Dr. Zaius, uh, he was so against of going into the Forbidden Zone, uh, just because man is dangerous and stuff. Just like how the lawmaker said in the little Bible prophecy thing.
Yeah.
To me, I got the impression that he was against the gorilla. Did you get that same impression?
Well, yeah, he didn't want to do it. He just wanted. I mean, Zero puts it best. He just wants things to stay just as they are, like for better or worse. And it's interesting to me. Like he started becoming one of my favorite characters because he's right again for the wrong reasons, but once again, oh, they shouldn't have done any of this stuff. This was foolish. It ended up dooming them, and it's just he's motivated by the wrong things, but what he wants is just to protect ape society and stuff like that, and he's right, it turns out. So
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
And the gorilla also had a good point too, because what it sounded like to me that they were running out of food and resources. So the smart thing to do is to expand and explore more land to get more resources and stuff, while possibly invading other people. So I guess he kind of did have a point, the gorilla, but I also agreed with Dr. Zayas that it's dangerous there, and we should be in our own little sanctuary and don't bother other people, or you're
Apparently,
gonna.
that's what the lawgiver had set down. Is like just never go there. Just don't go into the forbidden zone, and they shouldn't have gone.
That makes me more excited to watch more of the series to see who the lawmaker eventually is, because we are going to get to a point where we do the prequels, and I wonder if we ever find out who the lawmaker is.
I kind of assumed that was going to come later, but I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, so that's exciting to me because they always mention him a lot, and I feel like we're going to get a payoff soon, uh, especially when this became a franchise. And I and you said you want to know more about the cast system. The only Planet of the Apes movie that I only saw before we started this was the Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes, and that is canon, by the way. I researched it, but they kind of explain each cast system. Like what the gorilla does and what the scientist does. So that's gonna be cool. I'm also trying to think in the beginning of the movie, you'll see Charlton Heston and Nova riding on the horse, and then like a wall of fire appears, which you eventually find out what it is, and then like lightning bolts. I love the effects back then. Like it must have been cool to see that back then, but now when you look at it, it's like it's so fucking cheesy, but I love it.
Yeah, there was one like when the land splits open. That's a pretty decent like they lay footage over a miniature shot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty good. And this movie had some really good like background matte paintings, but it also had some really terrible background matte paintings. So I don't know. It was all over the place with the effects.
Mm-hmm.
Ups and downs. It was interesting to see what they were doing and what aged well and what didn't. And frankly, most of it didn't age well, but that doesn't take the charm out. So.
Yeah. So, Taylor tells Nova to stay on the horse, and he goes up to like the area where the Earth is split, and he kind of like puts his hand on, I guess, the invisible wall, and he goes through it, and then it then it switches scenes to pretty much to Brent and his broken ship and stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on in in this world? That Charlton Heston character just disappears into the invisible void, and you eventually find out why later.
It goes beneath the planet of the apes. It's in the title.
Yeah, but what would have been funny in my not funny would have been logical in my opinion was when the Earth split that somehow he was climbing down there and he fell rather
Yeah,
than.
but it was an illusion. It didn't actually split open.
Oh, okay. See, I read that wrong.
I mean, they explain it when they're like interrogating him.
Mm-hmm.
And then also later, like the ape army has stopped by all this nonsense, and Dr. Zaius kind of sees through it and rides into it and doesn't get hurt because it's an illusion. It's all fake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you said you like the painting and stuff. I kind of like the subway set pretty much. I thought it was cool looking.
Yeah, apparently, a lot of those sets were just redressed sets from another movie that took place in New York City. I thought that was interesting. They took the actual sets that used to look nice and then just post-apocalyptic them up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that stuff looked pretty dumb though. It didn't like age. It's like 1,000 years later, and there's still paint on that bus. That's dumb.
Yeah. There's a lot of things in there. I was like, that, because think about it. A nuclear war happened. They're in the subway at the moment, so like all that stuff that you see that is in the subway would look all raggedy and old and shit. Like, what really confused me was when they first went into the subway where they see Queensboro Plaza. By the way, prop to Queensboro, my hometown over there. But he goes on the train tracks and he like sees a picture that says New York and stuff. Like, wouldn't you think that piece of paper or poster would decay in some way over
Yes.
time?
I mean, it was a metal sign. It was painted.
True. But it would still be rusted, right?
I assume, depending on the climate, and apparently the climate that they're in is like very dry. There's not a lot of water that you see.
Mm-hmm.
If something is very dry or extremely wet, like a bog or a marsh, stuff can be preserved for a lot longer. So there is some scientific basis to if it's a really dry climate, it preserves some of this.
Yeah.
But there's something I hated about this movie, and that's that it kind of made everything feel a lot smaller. Like I always felt like the distance from the crash site to Ape City to the Forbidden Zone to the dig site to where he sees the Statue of Liberty, I always felt like it was a really far distance. Like they were riding for a couple days and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie makes everything feel like it takes place like within a day walk or something. Like they escape, and then like the next scene, they're getting chased by apes, and then they're like, "Oh, we're in the Forbidden Zone." I was like, "What's this when?" And I didn't like that Nova led him all the way back to the Ape City, and it feels like later that afternoon. Like it should have been taken days. They were in the Forbidden Zone. That's where he crashed. And I don't know. The first movie made everything feel like this is a big part of this world, and this one made it feel like the entire movie always took place right over New York City.
You know what?
That's dumb and boring. I don't like that. And plus, some of it's underground and some isn't. I don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just feel like they did it on purpose to the point where you have the town full of apes, and you got to think that's a small town. It's nothing like a city or a metropolitan. It's like a tiny little, like an Indian tribe, to say the fact of that. And I feel like the Forbidden Zone is just across the hill. That's how I think about it. Like, I think about the Forbidden Zone is like a couple of miles down the road, and then there's like this desert area where the ship is, and the beach, and because you got to think that they have to be near water, correct?
I mean, they'd have to be to survive.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they're not gonna drink ocean water, but there's a river nearby, which would lead to an ocean. So, yeah, it just how the film directs it makes it feel like everything's small and next to each other, which logically that would be stupid when they say, we need to travel to the forbidden zone, like it's, in the next state.
Yeah, I the first movie made me think it was taking place over many states or whatever, but this movie just feels like it all takes place in one location. I realize New York City covers a lot of area geographically, but it's just I don't know. It should be bigger.
That is interesting. I mean, they're in Manhattan, and maybe the forbidden zone is like the five boroughs. I guess you just take a bridge and you're there. I don't know. Um, Brent and Nova go in the subway, and they're being led by a humming sound. Um,
Which never gets explained.
mhm. I just think it was the people that they meet were just like leading them on.
Yeah, but what's the point of making it stop whenever their hands are on the ladder?
I felt like he kind of explained that like it was in navigation mode. Uh, Pretty much when his hands were on the ladder, and I guess when the humming stopped, that means they were going in the right way. I guess because every time,
I still think it was stupid.
yeah, I guess they were just trying to have something be like, oh, something's communicating with us. See?
I mean, it was mysterious, and at the time, I admit, I was like, "Oh, what is this? What's going on? I want to see more." But then when I found out what it was, I was like, "That didn't make any sense." Also, it was really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. They set themselves up for something really cool, and then just not only did nothing with it, but kind of in the reverse. Like it worked against them.
Yeah. And again on how they made everything small. The subway felt small to the point where like they led to this area to a church, and in front of the church there was like a drinking fountain, and he went to go drink the water that was in there, and I'm like, that's probably not sanitary, and he spit it out. That was funny.
Yeah, I guess he was desperate. But then, like, a fountain starts, and this also doesn't make sense because everything I know about their abilities leads me to believe that they can only make like illusions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess they had something mechanical that could actually turn that water on, right? Because it obviously wasn't an illusion. Because not only does he drink it, they could make him think he was drinking, but then he tries to drown Nova in it. So obviously the water was real. Do they have like they got a little switch back there that turns on the fountain? That's weird.
I would have to.
I think a lot of my problems with this movie stem from I hate the dumb powers that the mutants have. It's so stupid.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the low point of me, because I'll explain why in a second. But like when they did the fountain thing and he started drowning Nova, I was like, is the water poisoned? Was he making him do that to kill her in some way? And then eventually it led to a church where a guy was praising a nuclear bomb.
Which I didn't realize that's where that trope, that joke came from, is this movie. Because I've seen that other stuff, like Venture Brothers and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's...
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, just based on the fact that what we saw in Planet of the Apes, the first movie, and then these people worshipping a nuclear bomb that pretty much destroyed the Earth, and I was like, what is going on here?
I do, however, like the bait and switch of, oh, these are people, they've evolved, and now they have all these fancy sci-fi powers, just like sci-fi literature said they would. But then it turns out that they're all like messed up and mutated because they're all wearing masks, which I don't know where the masks came from.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, why are there still distinct races 1,000 years down the road if it's just this small pool of people? Like there's still black people and white people. But then later it's, never mind, this makes sense.
Yeah, and my friend who was talking to me while I was watching it, talking to me through text, about this movie. He's like, "Tell me when you get near the end and all that stuff." And I was like, "Wait, are these aliens? Like, I don't get it." And they eventually they do explain that they were, mutated humans that had got all these powers and stuff. This was the low point for me. Um, I,
Yeah, the
I
whole payoff to the whole mystery of the movie. Yeah, too.
yeah, I would rather aliens came to the the Earth, them going underground. Let's just say these aliens, all they have is these uh, mind power controls, and that's it. They're peaceful, obviously. Like, well, not obviously, but they talk about peace, and they go into hiding because of these Planet of the Apes and these crazy humans and stuff. I would believe more of that than what we got, where it's like, oh, we're advanced mutated humans that went into underground, and we're a peaceful group. We don't want any problems here.
The most hypocritical
Yep.
pacifists ever. The everything bothered me about them. Like it's kind of an interesting idea, and they could have done something about it. But the movie, like, it felt like a hard left turn from where Planet of the Apes was,
Hmm.
and it frustrated me to no end too. There was tons of really interesting stuff about it, but it was mixed in with all the stuff I hated.
Yeah, and like I said, it just I didn't like them. The only thing I liked that they were worshiping a nuclear bomb, and that was ironic in a way because that's what destroyed civilization.
Also, they claim to be pacifists, yet they worship a weapon.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of how is today. Like, you show peace through strength by having a nuclear bomb, and they touch up on that on Metal Gear Solid 5, I believe, and I believe Peace Walker, where they go, we have a nuclear bomb. We're gonna make sure we bring peace to the world by telling them don't mess with us because we'll nuke you. So that was interesting. The whole them taking off their skin mask was weird. Like, I guess that was the payoff to be like, oh, we're mutated, we're different people, we're still humans, but this is what we look like now. What do you think of the Charlton Heston or Taylor versus Brent fight?
I think it went on too long. It was an interesting premise at first, and then I was like, okay, I get it. Neither of these guys can fight that well. Which is a shame because you remember the fight on the carriage, the moving carriage, when he breaks out, he attacks the ape and they fight like on top of it while it's moving. That was awesome stunt work. That was great. And then when the two of them fight in that cell, I got so bored.
Yeah, and I guess did he throw him into the cage because his back was bleeding and
Yeah, he landed against the bars with the spike bars.
See, I got so bored of that fight right away. I didn't even notice that. Same thing with like the mutated human stuff. I kind of zoned out. My friend actually told me, he's like, no, they're survivors and stuff. I'm like, what? These aliens are survivors? I don't get it. Like,
I never thought they were aliens or anything. I stuck with the movie. Like, I still wanted to know what was going to happen because they set everything up so well. I really liked the apes are going to war. They need more land. They need land to grow food. Dr. Sayce is against it. Like I said, I like that character. But after they started dealing with all the mutants, I was like, this is really stupid. This better go somewhere. And then it fucking goes nowhere. And then the movie ends.
mm-hmm. We already touched up on this, but they use illusions to kind of scare off the apes away or anybody that trespasses on their ground. So, like when the apes were there, there was like a wall of fire. Their lawmaker statue was like crying blood, and there was like apes on stakes that were burning. And Dr. Zayas, was that?
I wondered if those scarecrows that they see in the first movie, I wonder if retroactively that wasn't supposed to be associated with the mutants. Like that got me thinking at least. I was like, oh wait, was that this or was it that?
See, this was the mutants were too sci-fi enough. Like, it's interesting that the whole you know, apes evolved from humans kind of thing. Like, that's interesting. But this mutant thing was stupid. I would have rather have like a small community of humans that actually can talk, uh, that were kind of like the rebellion in a way.
Yeah, that would have been more fun because they could have like developed the world more. But instead, it was like its own independent thing, something that hasn't had anything to do with anything
Hmm.
except in the microcosm of this one movie, of this one conflict in this one movie, and that's kind of disappointing. Apparently, I was reading about this movie a little bit. The script, there were like 3 different scripts kicked around for this movie, and this is the one that they had settled on. And I don't know, one of the other ones had like Taylor leading a rebellion or something. I
Hmm.
don't know if it would have been any better, but that leads back to, and there's a huge franchise of these movies now. There's 9 of them, and that's cool. And apparently, the newest ones, the 3 newest ones, are all great.
Hmm.
But did this movie need a sequel? Most of the critical response, pretty much everyone who hated this movie was like, "This just proves that sci-fi doesn't need sequels. This movie shouldn't have had a sequel. This sequel is a misstep." Blah blah blah. And I kind of agree. And real quick, I will say, we always say, "Oh, do you recommend this movie or not?" I kind of recommend this movie anyway because it's still really interesting, especially if you like old sci-fi, if you like the old Star Treks, if you like the first Planet of the Apes,
Hmm.
Omega Man, Quiet Earth, stuff like that. If this movie's still worth it. It's interesting. There's some good stunt work in it. There's some good sets. It fleshes out the Ape City some, but man, the ending was just so stupid.
Yeah,
But they didn't need to make it. They probably shouldn't have.
yeah, but then you would have never got the franchise, and
I know, but do we need it? That coming from someone who has literally never seen any of the other movies. Like I said on the first episode that we did, Planet of the Apes, I've seen the first movie like 5, 6, 7 times.
hmm.
I've never seen any of the others. So the first movie, if it stood by itself, if that was the only one that had ever been made, it would still be considered. I mean, it is considered one of the great sci-fi movie adventures, but it would be considered even better, I think, because apparently not only is there all this, but there's like an animated show and a bunch of comic books. And, they went a little crazy with stuff, which for better or worse. There's a lot of side stuff from Star Wars, Star Trek, Conan the Barbarian. It's all great too, but
Yeah,
I don't know. The first movie is just so good. It seems so better.
yeah, and obviously you had Rod Serling in the first one with the
Who
screenplay.
also didn't return.
Yeah, he didn't return for this one, and I have a feeling if Rod Serling was on here, he wouldn't have these mutated people. At least he would probably make them more believable in a
He
way.
would make the movie have a point. The
Yeah.
first movie had like a point. There was like social commentary, and there was a bunch of like dry, somewhat dark humor in it. And then this one, just like I said, it's like a sci-fi romp. It's like a little adventure movie, but it doesn't really make that much of a point. I feel like they try to make a point about being nuclear deterrence, anti-war, stuff like that. But every dime store, baby's first sci-fi movie makes that message, and this one doesn't even do it.
Mhm.
In my
Yeah, and obviously, how Andy was saying, like, it just ends, and pretty much that's how it does. Like,
I didn't care for the ending much at all. I like I said, the movie's still good in a lot of places, and I really, really wanted to be like, I love this movie, and I did kind of like it, but man, the ending is just so stupid.
the apes are coming in and they're fighting and stuff, and all the fucking mutated humans are just fucking dying left and right, and they activate the missile before the apes, I believe, come in, and all they have to do is press one crystal down. And was it just gonna blow inside there, or was it a launching? Like, where was there a silo or something?
I don't know. I don't fully understand how nuclear weapons in 1969 worked, but I feel like neither did the writers.
But Taylor and Brent, they were like in the top area. I guess they were gonna To me, the plan was they were going to stop the mutated humans from blowing up a nuclear bomb, and pretty much when the apes got there and slaughtered the mutant humans, Brent gets shot, and then Taylor gets shot, and Taylor's like, you know what, fuck it, and he just. Did it look like he fell on the crystal, or he meant to do it?
He was doing it on purpose. He did that on purpose.
Because my friend,
after Nova gets shot, he started to say, "Oh, we should just do it anyway. Blow up all the stupid apes and all the stupid mutants, set all this shit." And then Brent kind of like puts the fire back in him. But then after Brent gets shot and then he's injured, it's like, you know what, fuck it. I guess well the whole goddamn world. And then there's that weird narration at the end, which I don't know. I either like it or hate it. I think I like it. Like as far as the shitty ending goes, I do like that the guy's like, "Our planet just in this one solar system that it's a charred husk now."
I think what he said was, "Man is capable of nothing but destruction."
Yeah, which is funny because it goes back to what Dr. Zaius was always saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God damn it, they should have done more of that character. Because in the first movie, they do such a good job of making a character that you hate. I love that. I love when writing makes you hate a character for reasons other than, like, he's a murderer or he's a rapist. Oh, of course you hate him. But Dr. Zaius is, like, motivated by keeping people safe. God damn it, he's a scumbag. I hate him.
It's kind of like a heel in the WWE, pretty much. But, yeah. And that's how it ended. And I thought, when the first movie, when we got that big cliffhanger that he was on Earth the whole time, it's just in the future, and something went wrong, where apes are now the species that were powerful compared to humans. This just ends, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I guess if you would have watched this movie in 1970. You'd be like, God damn it, that's it, it's the end. Well, not God damn it, like, I guess that's how it ends, everybody dies. But us watching it now, we know that there's a franchise. Based off of how it ended, you could really tell that they didn't want to make any more. But I guess there was some type of cult following that they just kept on making more. I do recommend it because there was parts where I was like, I kind of want to know what's going on. I'm interested in where Taylor went and what is in the Forbidden Zone, because they kept on alluding that something was in the Forbidden Zone. And I want to bring up the ape protesters. That was hilarious, by the way.
I like that. It was like a nice little, like, that's what I wanted. It was like parallels to shit that actually happens in real life, because the chimpanzees they were more like, I don't like this war thing, stuff like that. And it was a callback to the kid in the first movie. Never trust adults, and he's like, oh, adults always using big words and stuff like that. That makes sense. I liked that, but they didn't do anything with it. It was just that one scene, and it wasn't set up, and there was no pay. It was just a scene, and they get them out of the way, and it's like they wanted you to know, oh, the chimpanzees are kind of against it, and then nothing.
Yeah.
Now I assume they're dead.
Gorilla brutality.
Yeah.
And then the part where he's like, the only good human is a dead human. And that was when they were in the Coliseum area. But yeah, I do recommend it. Like I said, the low point to me was the mutant, and obviously the ending. It was very abrupt, but obviously I still recommend it. I see that we both have the same idea, and we're putting this at number 2 in our ranking so far.
I mean, of course, it's not better than the first one. Like I said, I haven't seen the others yet.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's number 2 for now.
Yep. So
I see that changing.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna happen until we start seeing like the newer ones, where the prequels that might change up our list. But I think we're gonna have like 1, 2, 3, and 4 pretty much be the accurate list that they have here on IMDb.
Probably, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yep. So obviously next week or next bi-weekly, the next Planet of the Apes movie is called Escape from Planet of the Apes. So make sure to go watch that and then come back here and talk about it.
I honestly can't wait to watch it because where do they go from here?
Yeah, I've been looking at pictures and stuff, and it's very interesting. I'll say that.
I'm doing my best to look at nothing. I'm not even reading the back of the Blu-ray case before I put it in my PlayStation. I'm just putting it in, hit and play as fast as I can, which is weird. This is an aside, but the Blu-rays I got, they're all European, but it doesn't matter. There's no region locking. They play on the PlayStation 4 just fine. But I guess each one is prefaced by this like kind of ugly CG of the lawgiver. Talking about the movie, and then each movie also has an intro from the lawgiver if you want. I didn't select it, but man, it's fucking weird. It's just a weird aside. It's just so strange.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Watch it. See, well, watch the Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the lawgiver stuff. That's interesting. All right, let's go to some news that matter to us. I don't know about you, but I bought my Endgame ticket, Avengers Endgame. Not on opening day, by the way, because it's sold out. So I had on May 1st at 10 a.m. in the morning because I don't want to be in a crowd of people during the afternoon or night. But I got my ticket. I can't wait to see how they defeat Thanos. And see who dies. I'm thinking it's gonna be Iron Man and Captain America. I think both of them are gonna die in that movie. An end of an era. But are you gonna go see Endgame?
Fuck yeah! I know how weird that sounds. I'm always so down on comic books. Man, I really liked Infinity War. That movie was a ton of fun. So I was Thanos for to provide more.
Yeah, Thanos when
actually liking it.
Thanos with a lightsaber, right? Or you had you were holding somebody's lightsaber, if I was correct.
I mean, one time, yeah, I picked it up.
I just saw a picture, man. Joker trailer came out today with Joaquin Phoenix. I asked you before the show, and it sounded like you were a little down about this.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to like it so much because the tone is really interesting, but like the stuff with his mother seems strange. Again, it's just a trailer. I don't know anything about it yet. I really like Phoenix, but something about it hit a weird chord. I mean, I feel like they really want to recapture the grittiness. I know everyone loves that word. The grittiness of like the Christopher Nolan movies. And they're trying to do that, but kind of in a slightly different way. And I think this movie has a bunch of potential. I'll say potential, but I don't know if anyone wanted this. I don't know if it needed made, but it's just a trailer. We'll wait and see. Comes out in October. Excuse me. Comes out in October, so I guess we'll all see it again.
Yeah, they didn't give a date. They just said October because it's a teaser. To me, it was like a trailer, but they said it was a teaser. To me, a teaser is here's 20 seconds or 10 seconds. Boom, that's a teaser. I believe this was like a 2-minute to 3-minute trailer. And I like the grittiness. A lot of people hate it because people don't know how to capture Christopher Nolan's grittiness and dark of the Dark Knight movies. It looks interesting. Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor.
Yeah.
Did I read this correctly? Isn't Robert De Niro in this film too?
I don't know.
Let me go look that. I'm looking that up right now. Joker. He might be one of the cops. Yep, Robert De Niro is in it as.
Oh, that's pretty fucking cool, man.
Yeah, Murray Franklin. I don't know who that is. So. Yeah. You think they're gonna talk? Obviously, this is in the Batman universe, and you see Arkham Hospital. Do you think you'll see some type of Batman in here, or is that going to be the end and pretty much be like a cliffhanger sequel that he's going to fight Batman in the next
Yeah, I
movie?
think it'll be that. I think they'll have a post credits situation.
Hmm.
That's my guess.
Yeah. What do you think of the costume? I saw the purple one. It kind of reminded me of the uh, cartoon kind of suit to it. The makeup is interesting.
I kind of like that. I like the design of everything. I like the orange suit that he wears too. It's kind of,
Yeah, and I do like that it's in the 70s kind of. It has a 70s feel to it. I just don't know because the whole mother thing um it looks like they're going off script on how the Joker became the Joker.
yeah, definitely.
And I don't know if that's going to mend well with the comic people. Um
Eh,
but
tell a good story. That's all it takes. Because I mean, they changed it. Sometimes the Joker was Jack Napier, and sometimes he was the guy who shot Batman's parents, and then sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's other stuff. Or whatever. They can do whatever they want. Fuck.
and what's weird to me, the tone that I got in this trailer is you have to like the Joker like he's some type of good guy, and pretty much the city of Gotham is making him into the Joker.
Oh, I didn't get that at all. I got that he's like emotionally unstable and has a really weird um, non-regular home life, and that maybe he's just like to start, he's already a little weird. He's probably driven
Hmm.
weirder still. Weird. He's driven homicidal. That's what I got. Again, it's just a trailer. We're speculating on trailers. Good, that always does.
I mean, I'm still gonna see it because Joaquin Phoenix, and I think I said that last time. But
I could see myself seeing it. Like the trailer didn't strike the chord that I thought it was going to, but I'm still, if they released another trailer, I would also watch it.
hmm and yeah, so stay tuned and look out for a trailer. Hopefully, they don't put the whole movie in a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Last news, really quickly, and I thought it was pretty funny that Sandra Bullock was offered the role of Neo in The Matrix before Keanu Reeves. Uh,
Weird.
Thinking about Sandra Bullock being Neo is weird, and not because she's a woman or anything. I'm not being like misogynist in any way. I just everything that I've seen Sandra Bullock be in, especially like Demolition Man, Gravity, uh, Speed, and Speed Two, um, like she has this certain personality, and her capturing the personality of Neo um, is weird to me.
It
Uh,
could have been. I mean, I wish there was a screen test.
yeah, it, the article pretty much says they were looking at Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously because they were big in that time. Uh,
Totally.
Will Smith, that would have been funny. Well,
I could have got down on that. That would have been interesting.
yeah,
It would have been. It would have been different. I think the movie would have had to have a slightly different tone.
I think at that time Will Smith was working on Wild Wild West, that movie. Uh,
Oh well, good. I guess his time was better spent.
um, I think one of the producers that worked with Sandra Bullock in Demolition Man, this is what he said. We went to Sandy Bullock and said, we'll change Neo to a girl. Joe Silver and I worked with Sandy on Demolition Man, and she was and continues to be very good friends of mine. It was pretty simple. We sent her the script to see if she was interested in it, and if she was interested in it, we would make the change. Uh, Interesting. That's
Mm-hmm.
all. That's all I'll say.
That makes me wonder how far they would, because the producers were like, "Oh, we want you to completely change this lead character," and I just wonder what the Wachowskis would.
Hmm. It, I don't know. It's just weird. And
Very weird. It's very interesting.
that's the news, everybody. I went through all the news, and obviously, it was dominated by Endgame stuff. So
Yeah, of course.
I did not want to be like, oh, Tom Holland said that this might happen, and the Hulk, and what is the future of Marvel, and I just don't care. all I care is the ending of Thanos, because you got to think this way. Marvel, this is an end of an era. Like, what we get from here on out is the future of, we're getting into the comics that are coming out now compared to the last phases that we went through. We were getting origin stories and old comics of the Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. Like, now we're gonna get like the new Avengers and stuff that are gonna be coming out later. So
I'm excited. We'll see what happens.
yeah, and I'm still seeing that Space Jam 2 is coming out in 2 years, but with LeBron James. So that's funny. All right, guys. I think that's where we'll end the episode. We are on Podbean. If you go to novnetwork.podbean.com, we're on there. And we are officially on Spotify, everybody. So if you go to Nerd Review Network on Spotify, we are on there. I know a lot of people prefer Spotify over iTunes these days. Yeah, iTunes is garbage in my opinion. But we are also on iTunes. So if you have an iPhone, go watch it or go listen to it on there. If you have every other phone, go on Spotify. We also post on nerdreview.com. That's a nerdy site where we talk everything nerdy, and we post our podcasts on there. I'm trying to think what else housekeeping. Is there any projects you're working on, Andy? Video game or movie?
Yeah, Ultima. I'm reminded. I kind of have to beat it first. I feel like, but I already have a lot to say about it, for better or worse. I say that a lot. I know it, but I got to beat the game first, and then I'm pretty sure you're gonna start seeing stuff materialize. Also, I don't want to say anything right now because I was just thinking about it today, but I might spin off what we're doing with Planet of the Apes into something else, but I'm not gonna say what it is yet.
Okay, cool. So stay tuned for Andy's projects. Me, I've been thinking more about my Twitch channel. I'm not like any other streamer on there where I'm really engaging. So I thought of an idea. I like music. I like video games. Kind of might be doing a little radio show where you could request songs and play while I play video games. And obviously I'll talk here and there. It's not like I'm just be like, here, listen to music. I ain't fucking talking to you. But
You gotta be a disc jockey. You gotta have a lot of personality.
Yeah. So I think that's where I'm gonna take my Twitch channel. The YouTube stuff I'm still working on. I have one other project that I'm planning before I talk about it, and I have to sign some people that I'm gonna be talking with to be part of this project. So stay tuned on that. Until next time, everybody, remember that next week we will be doing Escape from SideQuest, our video game podcast, and then after that we come back for some more Planet of the Apes. So see you guys later. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening.